Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show. Hi, I'm Paul here with you at 8 p.m. every Monday, talking about the old rugby on YouTube, Facebook, and not Twitter anymore because, hey, you have to pay now to live stream to Twitter. So sorry, folks, that ain't happening. But joining me is Cornflake from the Deep South. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Why would you have to pay to stream something on Twitter these days? What a greedy, money-hungry platform that is. Terrible stuff. Down with the paying for money for that. I'm good. Good weekend of rugby, fun times, few good matches. It's what really is a bummer is now we've got nothing for this weekend.
Oh, really? Because I was looking back on this, see where's that Ranfurly Shield? It's not there, is it?
Never mind. What NPC? I don't know what you're talking about. No idea.
Oh dear. 44 billion reasons for Elon. Exactly. Yeah, Elon Musk is. I've got no idea how much he's losing with Twitter, but there you go. But yeah. So nowadays you've got to up to Hawks. A Bay, not BYA. Bring your own beer. No, it doesn't work with A, does it? A would be own. No, never mind. Good evening, everyone. As Simon says, officially released the World Cup qualifiers. Have they? Oh, okay. I didn't see that. I was searching around for some rugby news before this. So far, so that was so World Rugby managed to make such a big bang with that all the local papers didn't bother to even report it. But there you go. The only kind of news I could find was that Finau has re-signed with the Chiefs, which look, he's in the All Black squad. Why wouldn't he? Makes absolute sense. There, I'm a bit surprised actually that he wasn't re-signed already. But I think the Chiefs are drip feeding out their re-signings once a week because last week it was Josh Lord on Monday, and this week it was Finau. So there we go on that one. Dr. Elsie, anything that matters at the weekend is the Otago beating Auckland. Who cares about the tests? Oh, wow. Ouch. On that one. And you had a rumour as well, Steve.
My rumour of Sean Stevenson possibly leaving rugby union? Possibly. If that's true to be read of or not, I am not 100% sure. But, hey, why not? I mean, let's be honest, Sean Stevenson, right? I was thinking about this when I read this rumor. To me, it kind of makes sense for him personally, because how much is he like that year he played that test for the All Blacks? He had such a stellar, like he was incredible. Like I don't think he'll ever play better than that in a season. And what did he get? One test because really media and public pressure. I mean, he wasn't going to get that test otherwise, was he? I just don't see, his career progressing to becoming a mainstay All Black. So if this rumor, I emphasize rumor, is true, I can completely understand it from his perspective. So we'll see whether that one progresses, or is he just a faithful, really good Super Rugby player?
Look, and the rumor last, he wasn't talk. We did have some chats last year with a NRL team over in Australia, from memory, the Eagles, I think. I can't remember now on that one. But this time talking with the Warriors. I mean, the Warriors being linked with him, linked with Laumape. I mean, look at all these rugby players heading over to the Warriors. Perhaps we can have another one of those Wigan Warriors versus Bath.
Oh, no.
Kind of crossover games. Have one game in league and one game in union. Have the Warriors versus Auckland versus the Blues. Warriors versus the Blues have the first half as rugby union, the second half as rugby league. Have one of those sort of charity games. That'd be fantastic. Bring it on.
It could be better than cricket, I guess, though. Surely.
You don't like
the last thing I want to see is Israel Dag playing cricket again. No, thank you.
Black's Bash, or whatever it was called. Yes, I've never watched any of those or paid any attention to those. Simon says those hybrid games were terrible. Yes, absolutely agree. But hey,
Warriors would lose both games. Yeah, probably pretty true.
And Robbie asked me, "Am I a league fan yet?" No, not really. I mean, I've been to a league game. I went and watched. Obviously, I've been to the Warriors, but I also saw England beat Australia in the Rugby World Cup at Wembley. many moons ago. So yes, rugby games has bring back North versus South. Actually, going what do you think of that North versus South game we had during COVID?
It was that memorable. I hardly remember it. There's been a few North versus South games, hasn't there? I mean,
oh no, back in the day, pre-professionalism, it was a big game. But
back then, yes,
yeah.
Since professionalism,
but since professionalism, yeah. Now look, we couldn't even agree with how which players should play and which ones. So, is it where you're born, or is it where your first NPC team was? Is it where your club side is? Is it where there was just so many arguments as to who should be playing for which team. That I think was more interesting than the actual game itself, from memory.
I think if you're going to do it, you've got to do it either fully committed or not, right? Like you say, you've got to set the rules. Like how do you qualify for each side? You've got to have some sort of structure and say we're going to have this in this weekend between this happening and that happening. Pre All Black selections and obviously post sort of finals of Super Rugby area, but. Yeah, rather than just being like, hey, we're going to have one of those North versus South games. Now, come along and watch it. It's going to be in, I don't know, throw the dart. Here, enjoy, have fun. And for the players, it's quite a cutthroat sort of scenario for a lot of them. It's almost a selection final chance. So, yeah, it's a weird old thing where it's displayed as kind of fun and charity and exciting, but for a lot of players, it's a real opportunity. So good in ways, but yeah, like a lot of things rugby does, it's just done too slap happy. It needs a bit of structure and actual, not just some guy saying, "Hey, this is a good idea, let's go," and off they go to the races, and that's the end of it.
What you mean, marketing, thought, structure, all those sort of things that New Zealand rugby just don't really do,
like Rugby World Cup qualifying.
and World Rugby for that matter, yes, and World Rugby as well. Yes, it's not just New Zealand rugby; it's just rugby administrators. Full stop.
I like the idea. I think it's a cool idea. But yeah, like what? How many have we had in the last decade? 2 or 3, or maybe last 15? There's only been one in the last 10 years.
I can only
in the last 20 years. Surely there's been 3 or 4.
Maybe, but I moved here in 2014, and I can only remember it happening once. So I've been here nearly 10 years.
Is that including when they had the All Blacks? Well, they had the probables and the probables. No, the possibles and the probables.
Yes, and the Black Ferns did that. The Black Ferns did that because they didn't have enough South Island teams, I don't think. North versus South. Or they did because I think it started off as North versus South. Then he looked at it and went, "Hang on a second." And then he looked at the North probables versus possibles. He went, What's Coxidge doing on the possibles? She's not a possible. She's a definite probable, and stuff like that. So it was just kind of like let's just do a mishmash game, and the titles were rubbish on that one. So yes. Let's just run through those NPC games then. First up on Friday. Sorry.
Do we have to?
It's going to very quickly. I'm not going into too much detail. I did actually watch one this weekend.
Me too.
Bay of Plenty saw off counties, so well done to them. We saw the midweek game pretty much as expected. As someone's already said, the 3 Auckland teams. I'm not sure that North Harbour and counties would like to be called Auckland teams.
Yeah, they are.
On that one. The Black Clash is horrible. Well, we know Steve and I don't even watch. So Bay of Plenty beat counties as expected. Otago got a big win over Auckland. Well, I mean, it's a 2-point win, but big in the fact that Auckland now are winless after 2 games, which is very surprising for one of the big city teams. And Otago coming off the back of losing to Southland, so they bounced back well to get that victory. So a close one there. Christian Liliafano was playing for Auckland, apparently due to injuries, and wearing his Moana Pacifica cap, scrum cap, which was a great touch. They couldn't even find him a scrum cap to wear. So I did like that on that one. Do butt in when you've got something to say about one of these games. Northland beat Manawatu. Yeah, I mean Manawatu's going to lose every game this season, so no big surprise there. even with Brett Cameron, the best fly half in the country.
Yep.
Tasman beat Canterbury 22-7. So good win for Tasman there on that one. The game that Steve watched, he doesn't want to talk about. Hawke's Bay saw off Southland 31-17 in the Ranfurly Cup game. To be honest, that's kind of expected as well. We think Southland were last season, and Hawke's Bay were fifth and also runners up in the final. Bay of Plenty then saw off North Harbour, so that's 3 games in about 10 days or 9 days, and 3 victories for them. So fantastic start to the season for Bay of Plenty. Wellington beat Taranaki in what was the first the top of the table from last year versus the champions, 26-19. And if Jackson Gardner Bishop could actually kick over a conversion, it would have been bigger. But he missed all 4 of his conversions in this game.
Ouch.
And then finally, Counties Manukau lost to Waikato. So yeah, Counties having a bit of a horror start to the season. That's 3 losses in 3 games for them with that one. No midweek game this week for some reason. No idea what's going on there. Northland was horrible. Horrible fans. 2 guys drinking 4 cans of beer each below in the stands. Drunk. Well, I don't get drunk people in stadiums all the time, I'm afraid. Nothing new there. So any comments about the games from last weekend?
All I can say is it's good to see people are actually celebrating wins against Southland, because to me that shows that they're actually a bit of a threat now. So you know what? That's fine by me. And I watched that game and I thought the Stags played fairly well. They just, that little period, I think it was about 25, 30 minutes in when they conceded a couple of tries, heading towards halftime. They were within a chance. They were keeping track all right, and then it just completely fell apart. They conceded 2 pretty basic, I thought, soft tries and never really got themselves back into the game overall. But still, they scored tries, they got points on the board, they're competitive for a portion of the matchup. They didn't throw it all away completely at the end. So, for me, there's a lot of positives from a loss following up by a win. And when you beat a team that can beat Auckland, by virtue of that, it means that the Stags are better than Auckland. What's not to be happy about?
How many cans of beer does each guy have under the stands in Cargill? I reckon that actually I'm not sure there is the stands are big enough to actually get underneath them in Cargill. So you have to drink on the stand, not under the stand. But anyway,
under the stand is the changing rooms. That's where the players go. So probably shitloads of cans under there because the players will be all. And the good thing about down here is you don't actually need to give yourself a little chili bin or anything. You just sit them on the side of the grass, because it keeps them cold. And yeah, Semi Reece should have played for the Stags in the weekend too, by the way. I feel that was any other. Look, if he played for Auckland, if he played for Wellington, he would have played. He would have got released from All Black expectation to play. He would have got released. That injustice against the mighty Stags. Come on. Injustice. You shouldn't be spitting on that next week.
There is not a Wednesday night game for some reason. Don't know what's going on. Don't know why we had one last week, but not this week. Hawke's Bay have got a Ranfurly Shield defence against Northland on Friday night. The South couldn't do it. Let's see if the North can, coming from warmer climes. I don't think they will do, to be honest with you. Counties will get their 4th loss of the season against Tasman on Saturday.
Boy.
Is there an NPC Super NPC Rugby Super Brew game or prediction game? Not that I'm aware of.
No.
Again, another failing by the powers that be. Big game on Saturday: Auckland versus Canterbury. So the old enemies. Going to that. Sorry. Super Brew does an NPC tipping. Sorry, we perhaps should have done one for next year.
Oh yeah, I haven't started one though. That's more what I was meaning.
Oh yeah.
I am not running one. Not for NPC this year. Should have. You're right. I would have kicked all your asses.
Southland up against Taranaki. That's going to be a tough one. Taranaki will go into Southland's favourites. Otago might have got the win over Auckland, but Bay of Plenty are coming down next to the Tupperware tin. So again, Bay of Plenty. Wellington. Sorry?
What's the Tupperware tin? Is that Forsyth Bar?
Tupperware box. Yeah, the Forsyth Bar. Tupperware box.
Oh, can you even buy Tupperware anymore? I think that's really a 90s or older joke, that one.
Well, I'm old, yes. Wellington will thump Manawatu at the Jerry Collins Stadium in Poirua. So that's good to see them taken away from the big stadiums. Actually, will actually fill a stadium. North Harbour, Waikato. That'll be a good one, but I think Waikato should get up again. I think two kind of mid-table teams there. And then we do have a midweek game next week, which is Canterbury Hawke's Bay. But obviously we'll talk about that one next week after we have the extra information from this weekend. Why is it raining everywhere but the South Island? Says Rugby Gamer.
It's snowing. It's snowing in the South Island.
It snows in the South Island. Yeah, it's so cold it can't rain.
Snowing today, tell you. Brr.
Yeah, I've got to agree with Simon. It's good that Wellington moved out of Sky Sports Stadium. Sky Sports Stadium it's too big for the Hurricanes. It's way too big for Wellington, and they're definitely losing money playing every game in there. Right then, internationals. So prior to the game, we had the All Blacks team announced, and quite clearly. The problem last weekend, or the previous weekend, was the outside backs, because we had one replacement, which was an injury prop, and then we had 11, 13, and 14 all replaced. So the two wingers and the outside centre were all replaced. So clearly, that's where the issue was. Steve, do you think Razor really got to the number of the problem as to why the All Blacks lost to the Pumas in Wellington? That it was down to that Seven Reeves back. Anton Leonard-Brown clearly scoring a try wasn't any help, and Mark Tillier clearly also made so many more errors that it was those three that really caused the problems.
I said this to you when you sent me that thing about clearly that the wingers and the back line was a problem. I said to you, it was like the All Blacks aren't going to learn anything from that loss because they're going to win this game regardless. I could never see they could have put out anyone they would have liked. They could have made 15 changes, and I feel like they were always going to win their game at Eden Park. Just everything was just lining up for them. But no, that wasn't the issue. And I think even we seen watching that game and then seeing the replacements, that wasn't the issue. But hey, this is Mr. Robinson, and he wanted Will Jordan to play, and I think anyone who got in his way was going to feel the wrath of that change. And I think he probably did learn one thing with those changes, that Anton Leonard-Brown needs to finish games. I mean, he's got to be on that field in the last 10 minutes, whether he starts or whether he's off the bench. I think in that midfield, he needs him on that field. I think we found that out in that first game. And I think unlucky for him because he was the best player on the paddock in that opening game and gets dropped to the bench. And it's just like, gee, you feel sorry for the guy. You really, really do. I thought he was outstanding. And then what did Rico even do in that game? I'm sure we'll talk about it. But, the changes come on. Caleb Clark was I could have scored that try he scored. He's ineffective. You might as well put a piece of toast out there because he's just as effective as that. Talia did more in what did he get? 10, 15 minutes? I didn't think he got that. Then Caleb Clark done that whole matchup. So, yeah, we learned something all right. Clark should never see an All Black jersey again. Rico Ioane is pretty ineffectual. And the forwards really were the ones that had to stand up. And I guess you could look at it and say the changes, in effect, were directed towards the back line. But I think the responsibility of the forwards to actually take responsibility for that result and that performance gave them a chance to reprieve.
Yeah, look, I mean, Dylan says in the live chat, can't we just accept that Argentina were getting better? Yes, we are. Now, this isn't to say that the All Blacks lost. We're not having to go at Argentina. What we're having to go at here is what changes do you make to a team that has lost? And looking at the changes, it was like you've not addressed any of the issues really that's around this, which was that the forwards needed to front it up, win the forward battle, and that too many errors was made across the board. Turning the ball over. That was in that first game. So to kind of blame your outside backs for balls getting dropped and turning over and a lack of execution seemed a bit strange as a way of doing it, which is why I basically threw that one at Cornflake, because it just seems strange to change those three players from that. Now, to a certain degree, look, I think some of it was perhaps premeditated in the fact that Sever Reece has played every game, because he also played over in the Fiji game as well. So I think there was an element of rotation in there, and also he wanted to bring back Jordan. But it just looked wrong. And from what he was saying, it seemed like the whole point of dropping Rico to the bench and bring him back was to put a rocket up his arse and say, "Hey, look, I want to see a response from you now that I've dropped you and put you back in." It seemed a bit kind of old school mind or sort of mental games, which seemed a bit strange to me. I thought we were past that kind of thing, but maybe not. Well, clearly not. Actually, I should say.
I agree with you. I was going to say to you, do you think those changes were predetermined? Do you think regardless of what happened in week one, we would have seen those same three changes at minimum going to that second test? I kind of believe we would have, because I think he always wanted to bring Will Jordan back to start the second test. I think the midfield change was hey, let's see what happens when we swap these two around, and we got the same opposition twice in a row. Let's change his midfield and see what the effectiveness is differently. And I think maybe Talia was a bit hard done by because he got really attacked at those kickoffs, and I think they might want to change that out, putting a bigger body on there, which the Pumas, to their credit, just said, well, okay, we'll kick someone else. It was a change of unluckiness that the All Blacks didn't adapt to on Talia's part, but I think the other two changes were certainly predetermined. They were always going to happen, whether the All Blacks won by 50 or they lost by 8.
Yep. Agreed. Yep.
And Dills did not tune into the live stream we had during the matchup and in that first game against the Pumas, where we were celebrating amazingly how great that victory was. Dude, Pumas, I love the Pumas. They're like one of my second teams. It's great to see. What was really interesting about it, and when we get on to the actual game, was from 1 to 2 test matches, the players that performed really well in test 1 for the Pumas and the players that sucked in test 1 for the All Blacks switched places. So, Bertineau was really good. Matera was really good. I thought those two guys stood out completely. And then Savia and Perenara were garbage. Test 2, it was exactly the other way around. Perenara was a lot better, and Savia was immense, back to what he was. But I think Bertineau had an absolute howler which really affected their whole attack process. Like I think Mighty said earlier with that halves. I think Cadetas was all right, but the service he got from Bertineau was a shocker. And Matera, well, he might as well just spend the rest of the game in the pub because he was really not there. And Cleavey not on the bench. I mean, I'm sorry, you made a shocker call there.
So it was to me, the big difference in this was because I was watching with a mate, obviously over a few beers. So picking out individual players, perhaps not as good as your sober thoughts are on it. But the big difference was down to
no sober thoughts.
Down to look in intensity and execution was just upped, particularly by the forwards in this one. Also, there was a bit of a game plan change in the first test. The All Blacks passed it 190 times for 120 runs. This time they passed it 140 times for 110 runs. So they did keep it slightly narrower. So again, maybe just it was wet conditions. So maybe there was also an element of, look, let's not try and pass the ball so much. Let's play sort of wet weather rugby, which we saw. Again, the kicks went from 23 up to 35, whereas actually Argentina went from 22 kicks to 21 kicks. They kicked it less. So perhaps Argentina didn't adapt to the weather conditions as well, and perhaps weren't playing a bit more of wet weather rugby in this one. Because even though it looked to me and it felt like the execution and the kind of pressure from the All Blacks was better, they actually turned the ball over more in the second game than the first game. It didn't feel like that in this one. because turnovers in the second game was 14 and 21, in the first game it was 9 and 12. So, but again, remember in that first game we didn't have any scrums either, did we? But
till about the 60th minute, right?
Yeah. Whereas in this game we had a lot more scrums in this one, and again, I think the weather played a big part into that one, with 18 scrums in this game. So yeah, very different. They're very different games from that point of view. And I think basically, probably Argentina didn't adapt to the weather as well as the All Blacks did, and also the All Blacks, as we know, they react very well when they lose. The All Blacks don't lose 2 back-to-back. They always come back and up the ante. Now for Razor, now the big question is, how do you motivate your players without having them lose the weekend before? Because you don't want to win half your games. But clearly that, because as you say, the players didn't really change. It's been the same kind of players. It was just that they played better. The game plan didn't drastically change. Sure, the weather I think it changed a bit for the weather, but the real big difference was just that the players were more focused. The players executed better than the previous week. I don't think there's that much difference otherwise from my point of view in this one, or do I miss a lot of stuff here?
No, I mean, yeah, probably a few beers too many, but we can let you away with that one. No, I agree with you. I think, you criticise the changes of selection, but there was a chance for a lot of that forward pack to, like I said before, to exact revenge or to right the wrongs of what they did the week before. And a lot of players who copped a bit of flack for those performances, I think, stood up pretty well. I think, it was really good to see Tamati Williams get a chance starting. I thought he looked every part of a man who should be wearing that number 1 jersey a lot more. I think he was phenomenal. And I just think the players that you look to put in strong performances really did step up a lot more. I find it interesting how much they're using Blackadder still in the set piece, even though those 2 locks were doing quite a good job. To get young and inexperienced locks, but it's good to have an experienced guy in Blackadder covering a lot of that pressure and having 3 options in the line out as well. Seems to be working pretty well for them. And just the backs, things kind of flow a little bit better. It's like, that extra week of them playing with each other, the passes kind of stuck a bit better. I think the short kicking game worked really, really well. And the ability to adapt up, whether it be Bowden or Geordie or McKenzie, putting in those kicks through, it definitely mixed up and forced the Pumas to defend a bit shallower, which of course gave them more space in behind to kick a bit deeper. And the game plan just worked. So no, not always players, but the execution was certainly a lot better, and the players were a lot more locked in and focused. And that's part and parcel of coming off a loss. It's also that pressure of the Eden Park performance now, 49, now 50 wins in a row. There's desperation. They don't want to win that. They don't want to lose that record. And the flip side is coming from Wellington. There's not that same sort of pressure or expectation, is there? Yes, there's expectation to win the test match, but boy, not that expectation of 30 years of history of never losing and the greatest single stadium record of wins in a row in international rugby. So, really a lot more on that matchup, and the players just played a lot better. And I think, like it was last week when the Pumas performed well and put pressure on the All Blacks players, once they were up and on top, they had that ability to stay on top. I think now the flip side happened here when the All Blacks got on top, and they got on top very early, remember, as well. Test 1 was a very close game, and the Pumas are always dangerous. If they stay within 5 to 10 points, they're always really dangerous. And it only takes, one moment of brilliance. Mateo Carreras, we saw it last week, just taking that little half 50 chance, bang, he's got the ability to score and change the game. The All Blacks took that away straight away. What was it, 20 minutes? They had 3 or 4 tries on the board straight away. They just sucked the life out of that Pumas side very, very quickly, which really took a lot of the punch and power out of the game and caused them to be chasing a huge deficit. And mentally, that's really, really tough, especially when, again, not only the All Blacks defending this record, the Pumas got the pressure of being, the 3rd ever team to go back-to-back against the All Blacks. that could have possibly happened after Ireland and I think was it France and 1512 or whenever it was billions of years ago. So there's a lot of pressure on the Pumas to back up, and you got to wonder, after that first victory, mentally they go, we only wanted to beat Australia. That was our expectation, and they're coming here saying, yeah, we're going to give it a crack. If we can do it, brilliant. And I feel like they had done their job. And how much of them were ticking off and going to make that fight with the Wallabies next week, thinking they had done enough to go 1-1. But I think they will be bitterly disappointed to have lost that much. And I think halftime really did buck up the Pumas. They won that second half, which is, if you want to split the game up, which, as a good coach would do and say, hey, 40 minutes gone, let's just smash that out of the way. Let's start again, 0-0. They won that second half. So, from that perspective, they certainly did buck up at halftime. And I think they were a lot better team in the second 40 minutes. The All Blacks did peter off. I thought they were, disappointingly, I thought they could have picked up and they should have pushed on and they should have got, I think, their scoreboard over 50. I think they'll be disappointed they didn't do that and make a real statement about it. But, the Pumas come back well. And I think they did a good job mentally resetting back to a 0-0 scoreboard and getting back and actually winning that second 40 minutes. So, I think there was a lot of mini games inside that whole game completely for both those teams. And I think both sides will, ultimately, All Blacks will be happy, but I think there's a lot for them to work on, especially going to South Africa now from especially their second half performance. Even though I will give Razor credit of taking on you must watch the show. Scott, thanks for watching, buddy. Good to see you. He exactly did what I said last week about those changes with Will Jordan and Bowden Barrett and swapping out McKenzie. And I saw that and I'm like, yep, he's a good coach. He knows what he's doing.
Actually, the other selection that I thought was a bit strange not strange, that really is just, I think it's wrong, is Sam Cane. Right, this takes him up to now 96 tests with this one. This is so blatantly, let's get him 5 tests to get him to 100. Now, look, as All Blacks captain, as a player who has broken his back or broken his neck in the Call of Duty over in South Africa and stuff, look, he deserves to be 100 cap All Black. Don't get me wrong. I don't begrudge him 100 caps. What I do, but it should happen naturally. It shouldn't be forced like this. Unfortunately, injuries have stopped him from getting there before this season. And I can see why they want to get him past there. But to my mind, that shouldn't be happening, in all honesty.
Can we change his name? Can we call him LeBron Kane now for stat padding? That'll get some people riled up. On South Africa, and we'll see if they can survive in South Africa without getting 2 back-to-back losses. Because boy, oh boy, the Springboks made 10 changes to their starting 15 and basically came up with the same result as they did last week against Australia. The first test finished 7 to I've got the right round. 7 to 33, and this test they won 12 to 30. So another comfortable win. This time though, the Wallabies didn't even get across the try line. All their points came from the boot of Loliseo with 4 penalties into this one. Nocturnal Right says, yes, South Africa's still butchering tries. Absolutely, yes. They should have won both these games by more points because, yes, they did butcher tries in this one as well. Yeah, we can change 10 players, but the same mistakes kind of seem to happen. But so to have made that many changes, to have and to put in this kind of performance again is very impressive. Let's be honest, he's building depth and squad depth for the next Rugby World Cup. He's already looking towards that. He's not too worried about whether he wins or loses these games to a certain degree. Clearly, he wants to win them, and if he loses too many, Rassie will get under some pressure. But clearly, he's not here thinking, okay, I've got to win the Rugby Championship. Now, I think there was an element of we have to beat Ireland, which is why we saw quite so many, or very few changes from the Rugby World Cup side to that Ireland series. But now he's like, okay, that number one thing's out the way. Let's move on and start looking forward 4 years. Cracking start by the Springboks from that point of view. Yeah, cracking start for the Springboks. Ticked the boxes, got the wins, developed a whole pile of players. I mean, they had a nice week holiday, probably. They got to go to the UFC, and Khaleesi and Etzebeth got to run out there and beat the show ponies, you know. I think Eben Etzebeth will be quite pissed off, though, to be fair, because an early injury, I think tomorrow, someone meant he had to come on after about 20 minutes of that game, which would have really, really annoyed him, because he would have liked to have stayed fresh, I'd imagine, and just, you know, have a nice week, chill night at the hotel, fly across and get some UFC action under his belt. But, yeah, look, South Africa is in, what would you call it, a really blessed situation, aren't they, with talent and skill, and they seem to just seamlessly be able to bring these guys through and have the experience in the places and merge these guys into the squad really, really well and just develop that depth without really affecting their team and their performances like we do see with the other nations as well. But this game, I mean, they did get 40 minutes. I feel like they weren't pressured, but they were scoreboard pressured. And I think a big turning point of this game was that halftime, 40-something minutes on the clock. It wasn't halftime yet. Wallabies get a penalty, 2 points behind. Lolasia lining up a kick just outside the 22, maybe 10 meters, not even that to the right. Should have been regulation. I feel like he should just pop that over, no problem, no trouble, no stress. And the Wallabies go 1 point lead into halftime. I feel like that was a huge turning point in this game. Not only, well, not for the Boks at all. I think for the Wallabies, this is a huge turning point because for them mentally to go into halftime and be like, we're winning. We've done enough. We've proven that we don't need to score tries to stay ahead. If we can keep our defense in hand and just take our chances, take our threes, we can stay ahead of this game. And that's what they did for the first 40 minutes. The defense was really good. I think it's really interesting what I think Tom Wright said at halftime or full time when the interviewer credited the team for how well their scramble defense was. And he said, we don't want to scramble defend. If we're playing well, we shouldn't need to scramble defend. But yeah, it's good, it's working, but we shouldn't get to that situation, which is really interesting because they did defend really, really well. And I think, like you said at the start, that game and the first test shoulda, coulda, would have been a lot more if the Boks had probably got their serious faces on. But yeah, the Wallabies, I think, showed improvement. I think it's a long way to go. But for them, I think, 12 months or maybe like 11 months now to next year is probably what they're focusing on, developing that team through. And I mean, you can see positives of improvement. I think they're going in the right direction. And I think the more and more weeks these guys play together, I'm really looking forward to when they play Argentina. I think that's going to be a really interesting battle in those two tests with the Pumas and the Wallabies. But yeah, the Boks, too good, too sharp, too much depth, too much continuity, too much power, and just too good for the poor old Wallabies. But I think there's encouraging signs.
Yeah, it was some good things for South Africa is that Feinberg Mngunduzulu, look, he had a bit of a wake up call. Everything in the first game went, or in the previous game went great for him. In this game, stuff didn't go quite so well, and that'll be a good learning experience for him. Oh, geez, I'm using that horrible. Oh, we took wonderful learnings from this game. Oh, geez, I sound awful. But no, but I mean, he
dropped the sitter of a try.
There was he dropped sitter of a try. There were a few other kind of clear mistakes that were his faults as well. So look, it's it'll be good for him to learn that basically, international rugby isn't quite as easy as he probably thought it was the week before. That there is a bit more to it than that. So I think for him, having that kind of experience under his belt will actually be very good for him, and to come away with the win as well. So basically, he can learn from it without getting blamed for it, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Will also be helpful for him from that point of view. And again, part of that piece you're talking about, putting enough experience around him, like outside him, right? You've still got a very experienced back line with Creel, Colby, Mapimpi. Not so much in Fassi, but still, he's got a lot of experience outside him that he can do with that one. South Africa line-out drive killed the Wallabies in the end. Look, South Africa's line-out drive is always very strong, but what South Africa won't be so happy with is the number of lineouts they've lost over the past 2 weeks. 4 lineouts were lost in this game. And whilst it says technically there were only 2 lost in the previous game, the previous week, it felt like more than that watching. So I don't know if there were some that were kind of that were won but not won cleanly, as it were, on that one. Rugby Gamer says, I think New Zealand needs to beat South Africa in both games to win the Rugby Championship. Absolutely, they do. Yes, there's no 2 ways about it. Peter Sef's Toy must be close to being best player in the world. Well, look, he has been World Player of the Year once, so yes, he is a very, very good player. There is no 2 ways about it on that one. Rugby Gamer also asked us earlier, how bad is Wales if they lost both games to Australia and South Africa both won by 20 points and 25 points? Look, Wales are in a very bad situation at the moment. Their domestic game has fallen to pieces. And yeah, Gatland's got a real tough job in his hands there. They lost all their games in the Six Nations. They lost those games to Australia. Wales are in a very, very bad situation at the moment. As far as tier 1 teams kind of go. So wonderful for South Africa. Really, really worrying for the All Blacks coming up, because we don't know what the Springboks first choice team is. We might find out against the All Blacks. I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see how Rassie does take it from that one there. But we'll have to see how that one goes. You say no Rugby Championship games this coming weekend, in fact, until the 1st of September. So that's so just 1 weekend away. The 1 weekend off. This weekend, though, we do have one international game with Fiji playing Samoa at 6 p.m. on Friday. It's not, and I can't find anywhere that it's on TV. So I can't see it on Sky. I can't see it on TVNZ. So I don't know if it's being shown anywhere on that one. So I'm sure Simon will let us know if it is being shown somewhere in New Zealand. Then on Monday, our time, at 9 a.m, they've got Canada versus Japan, also as part of that Pacific Nations Cup happening. So those are the 2 games this coming weekend from an international point of view, and plus obviously all those NPC games that we talked about. Pacific Cup we covered by Sky in New Zealand and Rugby Pass outside. Really? Because I couldn't find it on Sky. So there we go. So apparently it's somewhere on Sky, but it didn't seem to be on their schedule. So unless is that new Sky Open or something silly? Anyway, I'll have to search around and try and find it on that one. Pacific Nations Cup, Pacific Nations and North America have been merged into one qualifying zone. Now that actually makes sense. If you're playing the Pacific Nations Cup, then why wouldn't you have them all as part of that? Now, clearly, part of that is the breakdown of the America's Rugby Championship, which they used to have with North America and South America playing with each other. But it's a shame that has fallen down on that one. The TV guide is written down incorrectly. Okay, well, there you go then. So 6 p.m. on Friday, somewhere on Sky, you should hopefully be able to watch that Fiji versus Samoa, and then also Canada versus Japan at 9 a.m. on Monday morning, if you're not working.
Sounds like a live stream.
You have Mondays off, do you?
Well, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes.
I won't be able to join you because I will be working, unfortunately, on that one. Anything else that I've kind of missed?
I was just looking at the world rankings based on Nocturnal talking about Japan down to 14th. Pumas have leapfrogged Scotland, which normally in my streams I've got a few Scottish people that I can give a bit of stick to about how bad Finn Russell is, but yeah, they've dropped down to 7th place and the Pumas up to 6th place. Is probably the biggest change in the top of the charts there. But interesting to see how it changes, isn't it? Australia down in 9th, Italy is above them. That's crazy to look at. It really is crazy to look at how these go. But yeah, no, good weekend of rugby. I thought it was quite good. I've seen there's been videos floating about on our Discord channel about the Lions for next next year, and how they're pretty much writing off the Wallabies. I think they're getting a bit ahead of themselves, to be honest, on that one. So I think there's going to be some interesting Lions chat over the next 10 months or so leading into that tour with the Wallabies, and I feel like they're going to get better. And I'm looking forward to that series against the Pumas. I'm looking forward to what team South Africa's going to pump out in a fortnight. I know that's a wee way away, but yeah, I think this competition is strong enough. I think the Rugby Championship is. I think the Pumas performing well on that opening test has certainly opened up people's eyes to the tournament and opened up the possibility of upsets and the likes. So yeah, it's looking nice after just the first couple of rounds. So I'm looking forward to the rest of it, and yeah, it's going to be good to see some smaller unions playing this weekend as well, Pacific Nations Cup. So yeah, hopefully Monday morning we can get a bit of that action in as well. So yeah, rugby's not in that bad a way. If only the powers that be could make it a little bit better for us, right? One thing we didn't talk about, speaking of powers that be, make it right. The yellow card this week versus the non-yellow card of last week. So Almua's yellow card this week for when his fringe tickled. I think was it Carreras or I can't remember actually who it was he tickled. Versus Blackadder's non-yellow card last week. I know it's just the interpretation of the referees and blah 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 and all that sort of stuff. But in your opinion, what is the right call? I liked as much as I hate Angus Gardner, I actually liked his little bit of common sense that he brought to the game. And I really thought in the second test, there was no contact at all with Almua's head to the player. But I think that's a bit of a talking point between those two test matches.
Yeah, it looks like it's just both yellow cards and the protocols.
Yeah, I don't care about protocol. Protocol can go fly in the river because we know it's not about protocol. It's about interpretation of the law and common sense, which as much as I hate to say it, and it really does pain my heart, I feel like Angus Gardner showed a little bit of common sense in that first test.
Yes, but I don't think that. But to me, that we have a problem in rugby. We have a number of problems in rugby, but as far as officiating the game goes, we have two problems really. One is there's far too many laws to actually officiate them all. Number one, and number two, by not only can not all of them be blown up or officiated, then we have this kind of subjectivity around it because the game is too dynamic apparently to actually have clear-cut laws. So to me, the more that we can remove that the subjectivity, make it objective, the more consistency we'll get. And to my mind, if you're upright and you're in a collision as a defending player, you're in the wrong place. You have to get down. So Blackadder should have been off. In my mind, that I do get. It's laws and laws and laws. Sorry, folks. Understand what laws mean? Well, what laws means that the rich people don't have to abide by them and the poor people get fucked by them.
Oh, now you've got to censor it. Oh, God's sake.
Sorry,
what I have the problem with, though, okay? So, whatever Angus Gardner, like it or hate or disagree, I do agree with what Nocturnal said. Yeah, under the protocols, I thought Blackadder's tackle was actually worse than Almua's tackle, even though one got carded and the other one didn't. But to me, right, this is what really is the absolute mind about the whole situation is that what everyone's saying, hey, good common sense call from Angus Gardner, was actually the bad decision amongst it all. You know what I mean? To the letter of the law, right? And that's what I think the big problem with rugby is. I think that's what the issue is. We sit here and go, that interpretation is what makes a big difference about it. Look, I just think it was interesting. I hate both of them being yellow cards, personally. But yes, by the letter of the law, it should have been yellow. We got one yellow. We didn't get a yellow. And we had two very similar tackles and two different referees, which just goes to show that whole interpretation and opinion of a law is a referee. And also referee or TMOs, who overall referees, can go fall in a river, by the way. Just while we're on it. But yeah, I just find it interesting. I was just keen to what you thought about that. The differences in the interpretation from two different referees, and the apparent best referee in the world, Angus Gardner, using a bit, that little bit of medal he's got up there, as opposed to our Italian friend who just went, "Get off my field."
Who did what he was told to do.
Mm.
So it's not actually. I'm not blaming. I'm not. Again, I don't think the blame should be on the referee. There, it should be on the the authorities. But to my mind, yeah, I thought Blackadder should have gone. I thought it was lucky not to. I could see why Angus did use a bit of common sense, but you say it just brings in too much variability where people who watch lots and lots of rugby look at it and go, "Oh, we don't know what the outcome's going to be. Let's just wait." And if you're in that situation, it's wrong. It's got we people like us who watch too much rugby for our own health should be able to go, yes, it's that, or yes, it's the other for 95% of calls, or even more than that, 99% of calls. There's only the odd one where we go, "Ooh, I'm not sure." Whereas at the moment, it's like every single one of them are. I don't know which way he's going to go with that one. Is he going to get it? Is that kind of bent enough or not? Has the other guy gone down too much? There's just so much guesswork. And trying to explain that to someone who's just new to the game is impossible. I mean, sorry, but if you're trying to get new fans, and let's be honest, we need some more fans. Then yeah, good luck. So no, I think Blackadder should have gone, and I think it should just be clear cut and stick with it.
My comments were not against referees at all. They were against the laws and how differently two people can interpret a very similar tackle 1 week apart. That's literally what my attack was there. I think both refs made the right call. I think Angus Gardner decided what he thought was the best option, and he had reason for it. And I thought our Italian friends very much just stuck to the law. And I mean, neither were wrong. And that's the other thing, right? Two different decisions for the same thing, yet neither were technically wrong, right? Because Angus Gardner could be like, "Well, I believe this," and technically he's not wrong. And to me, that's not the referees. That's the laws.
Yep, agreed.
But yeah, that was my rant for the week. I just thought I'd fill in 5 minutes. Sorry.
Apparently, World Rugby have relaxed the eligibility rules. It's no longer based on residency, but where you're contracted. So you have 5 years of contracts in Japan, only turn up for 6 months each year. So you're not resident for the full 5 years, and become eligible. That's an interesting one. Wow. Okay.
Scotland, take note.
Is the data? Who knows what the data for recurrence of head injuries is since protocols came in? Sorry, but yeah, it would be nice to actually get some reports where they actually published it and clearly, so we could see. But again, the game is so managed in a disjointed way that I'm not sure who and where those numbers would be. The RFU used to produce a injury and drugs report, or was it just drugs report each year around the number of drugs tests and how many people got caught? Because surprise, you might not know this, but rugby is the highest number of banned players for drugs in the UK. Generally in the amateur levels, so below professional. So it's not the professional guys who are doing it, but it's the guys below that who are doing it and getting caught, which is just nuts. But there you go. But yeah, your weekend warriors are taking anabolic steroids at the gym, and getting banned. So that one. It was so easy for me to learn how to play NFL compared to rugby, where I still probably only know 80 to 90% of the rules.
I think there's a big difference between NFL, right? Because NFL, you're a position X, you're a wide receiver or whatever, and those rules, like there's a lot of rules that only apply to you. Like a receiver's not going to go on and be a tackle blocker, right? So any blocking rules don't apply to him. Whereas rugby, every rule applies to every player. It doesn't matter if you're 150 kilos or 55 kilos, right? And I think that's what's major difference between two sports like that.
Yeah, look, it's funny, isn't it, that you'll have guys who will go through their entire professional career as an NFL player and never touch the ball. Like, hang on, this entire game is about getting this ball across that line, and you never touched it in your 12-year playing career. Yeah, correct. What? The skill sets are just so different in American football between each player, whereas in rugby, yes, there are differences, but there's an awful lot of commonality. Everybody has to be able to catch and pass, even props nowadays. With that one, someone mentioned it higher up about Fletcher Newell being struggling with his scrummaging. Look, he's a young prop. He'll grow into that. Someone's saying that, yeah, look, he's good running around the park, and someone else said, oh yeah, it's only because he's 150 pounds. No, he's 150 pounds that moves, right? his work rate is good. He used to be a number 8, apparently. I think he was on. I think it was him I was listening to on the What's the Lad podcast, and he used to be a number 8. So and only at high school, when he moved down to St Kent's, that he actually got changed from number 8 to prop. So they gave him a scholarship and said, oh, by the way, you're not number 8, you're a prop. Huh? Okay. And look, it's not done him bad at all, is it? Now he's in up there. On that one. So yeah, so it is a no idea where I was going with that. Just like, so he's not just a big lump. He's a big lump that moves very, very well. Do we need Mo'unga back in the All Blacks? Look, I don't think the problems with the All Blacks are around specific players or missing one or is one player or one cog that suddenly will make everything work. I think it's more deep rooted than that. But and obviously, I know you love Dame McKenzie. So, Steve, you're going to say that clearly D-Mac's the best 10 in the world, and therefore, who needs Mo'unga?
No, we don't need Mo'unga back because we got Brett Cameron. Simple. No problem. There you go. Problem solved. I mean, did McKenzie have a good game? Has McKenzie had a good 2 games?
Okay,
is he like what's the word? Does he bring enough control of a game for your pivotal number 10?
Well, the flip to that is, did the All Blacks score a try once he'd been substituted?
Did they need to score a try once he'd been substituted?
Well, sorry, for those of you listening to the podcast rather than watching us live stream, we both were shaking our heads there after those comments. But look, it's so arguably, look, he is important because he has played well because they scored tries when he was playing. When he wasn't playing, they didn't score tries. So there you go. From that point of view,
I think Will Jordan had a good return, which was, I think, the biggest plus from that test match, the second test match. I thought he looked really on song. I thought he'd be missing. Yeah, I thought he'd really be struggling. Not skill wise, just catching the pace of the game, getting back into the groove, of that top level rugby. I thought it looked really good. That pace to score that try. Well, I can't remember if it was the first or second. I think it was the first one. Just out and out raw pace. There's no substitute for that. A guy that can just smoke it. Makes a massive difference. And while we're crediting wingers before we wrap up, Marika Conan-Betty is look that guy should be in a scrapyard, just like demolishing cars or something, because he has absolutely no respect for his own body. He throws himself, and he's a big lad too. He just throws at it, man. He brought a lot of physicality to that Wallabies team in the backs, which I think they lack, because I think guys like Callaway and such are really struggling. As good as they are, their effectiveness is down a notch. I think Conan-Betty brought a lot of attention off those guys, even though it wasn't enough in the end. But I think just the way he gets involved in the stuff that you'd expect of a forward out in those wider areas, does add a little bit of an extra dimension to the game. I mean, how the guy's not yellow carded once a game at least, it baffles me the way he throws himself into tackles and into bodies. But I thought a couple of wingers making their returns made a bit of a difference.
Yeah, six tackles, 4 made, 4 missed by Coretti at the weekend.
It's flying, that's why. It's pretty easy to dodge an aeroplane when it's flying at you. What? See ya.
Yeah, no, I was kicking myself for not putting money on, not putting $2 on Will Jordan to score a try. Because hey,
full of shit.
Rugby games is what. Yeah, it's talking about some Mackenzie's game management. He said he's heard that it's back. Well, look, I say it's a lot easier to manage a game when your forwards getting across the line, giving you front football at the end of the day.
Let's see South Africa.
That's it. So wait till South Africa. But I think that's the big difference in game 1 and game 2. Is that from football, and then life's much easier. You're not when you're not getting the ball thrown straight over your head by Ardy Surveyor, and then having to run back and scrum back and pick it up. It's easier to play rugby. Funny that, and you look better. At the end of the day, the game's won up front, and the backs decide by how many. And with that,
his tactical kicking is going to be crucial against the box.
Yep.
That's all. I'll let you wrap up now. I'll shut up.
Cool. All right, thanks, folks, for being here. We'll not sure what we'll do Monday because next Monday, because obviously there's no games this weekend to really cover. Actually, we'll probably pop on just to have a quick chat about NPC, but it'll be a quick one, I think, because I say there's not much on this weekend. So we'll probably be back next Monday at 8 p.m. To run through the NPC results and see how things are going there as Bay of Plenty, which is my kind of union nowadays because of kind of where I live-ish. I'm on the border of Waikato and Bay of Plenty, so I can just put my foot over the line when I want to, depending on how the teams are going. So looking forward to them to be four games to the good after four games played. So cheers, guys. All have a great week and stay safe. And thanks for joining me, Cornflake.